The date is Friday, November 26th, and you're listening to Entertain This, a thought-provoking podcast encapsulating all things entertainment. On this episode, we're talking to illustrator and animator Ward Jenkins. During his decades-long career, he's helped make shows like My Little Pony, Ava Twist Scientist, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and illustrated many children's books. So enjoy!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite show on the internet, encapsulating all things entertainment. It's Entertain This.
It's Entertain This. I'm in a weird mood today. I'm sorry.
As always, I'm Alex, and I'm not forgetting to say my name this time.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Nick.
Oh, gosh. I feel so stressed starting the show every week because I've messed it up in so many unique and beautiful ways. Then every time you guys are like, hey, you didn't do this. Hey, this got cut. Hey, this is never uniform. I'm like, I'm trying so hard. The New Year is coming up. It's almost December, and my New Year's resolution is going to be to make a concise and organized cold open for this show every week. I will get it right. I will get it tight. And I don't know another thing that rhymes with those words, but it'll be light. Nope. It'll be light.
It'll be aight.
It'll be light. That's things dying. So it's the end of the month. We all know it. We love it. Thanksgiving It was technically yesterday for those of you who are listening to when this released. So I hope you guys had a lovely Thanksgiving. I hope you're spending time with your family. Hope you're still feeling full and you decided I'm full and sleepy and I just ate a turkey that has existed for at least 24 hours. I'm going to take a nap, but first I'm going to listen to these boys ramble for a good hour. And we always do appreciate that. But it being the end of the month, let us not stray away from formula. Boys, we have a very special guest today.
Ooh, baby.
And, you know, we got to give it up to our fact checker, Chloe, who has once again hit us with the hookup on the fantastic guest that she has been able to provide. Let us not forget, she was the one who introduced us to our friend from the circus, the juggler. And now, once again, she has struck. So who says lightning can't strike the same place twice? But without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to a friend of the show, a friend of friends of the show, Mr. Ward Jenkins.
Woo!
Hey,
Hey, we did it.
We did it.
How are you doing?
Great.
Yeah, we made it.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, Ward. It's such a pleasure to have you on to talk about your great career that you've built throughout the years and all the awesome things that you've done. Career in
quotes.
Oh,
right, yeah.
okay. Great in quotations, not career in quotations. That's my bad.
You have multiple recognizable entries on IMDb. That is great.
Yeah, I have to make stuff up for my IMDb page just to even get on there.
You have an IMDb?
Yeah, apparently I did one of those, because we all do that self, promoting thing. I was like, well, maybe I can get a blue check on Twitter. Apparently you have to have at least 50 entries. Yeah.
Like 50 tweets?
50 entries in IMDb, whatever each item is. Not just, you have to have like at least 50 shows or something, or
that's
entries,
crazy.
or maybe it might be. So I think I have, like I mentioned earlier, we were talking, I have like 9 episodes of My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic, and so that it would count as 9 towards 50. So at least,
okay,
yeah.
Well, now you can add in this show. Luckily,
yes.
So that's one more.
At the top, I will put that at the top. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
At
for
the
that
top because
reason.
it's most recent, not most prestigious.
There we go. Yeah.
right.
So we've already kind of hinted to what you do and why we brought you on, but do you want to go ahead and let our listeners know kind of what your whole steez is, what you're up to, what you're doing?
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out.
God bless. We're learning something new about ourselves every day, Ward.
Yeah, exactly. I'm about to. Actually, my birthday is. Well, this will be after my birthday, but right now, it's before my birthday. It's on Wednesday. I'll be turning 53. So in those 53 years, I've had at least over 25 years of experience in as a professional. Started animating. I got a degree in illustration. But of course, my last year as we all do as students, go, I don't want to go into illustration. I'll go into animation. So, of course, my professor was like, "You got to be kidding me." And I'm like, "You should have seen this coming." And so this is like in 1996, so there was no internet really to kind of. There was internet, but it was just not the same as you would see it now. And so I had to do my own homework. Found a studio in Atlanta. So I grew up in the Atlanta area and worked as an intern for a couple months, and then started as an animator, hand drawn 2D is what we would call it, 2D hand drawn animator. And so I worked on commercials, and then I started in 2000 as a animation director for Primal Screen. Worked on a lot of stuff for Cartoon Network, mostly broadcast or what we do like as IDs or promotional stuff. Nothing like show wise, but we did animate a lot of characters from the shows. And then was a director for a couple of years. Then I worked at Leica. I worked at Leica Studios for about a year and a half in the commercial division. Directed more commercials, and then all of a sudden I was let go from there. But then I did a left turn, went back into illustration, started illustrating children's books. So I've been doing so that was around 2008. So since then I've been a freelancer since, and just now it's weird how it's kind of come back around into the animation world. I'm doing I'm now a storyboard artist for several shows. Done some work through Brown Bag Films, that they're based out of Dublin, and so it's nice to be able to work remotely. So like basically last year didn't really bother me. I was still working, thankfully.
Yeah.
I was already doing the Zoom thing before Zoom became a thing. So it was actually kind of like that old thing. I've done that, been there, done that. But no, yeah. So it has been really nice, and occasionally. For a while, I was also I'm kind of a collector of vintage old books and children's books and cookbooks and stuff, and so I have stuff that I would scan and post. And so back in the glory days of blogging, like the early 2000s, I had a blog called the Wardomatic, and that's actually the name I used for like some of my social media stuff. And yeah, so some people might know me through that, and I have like an extensive collection of old stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and that, it kind of definitely helped me kind of forge new ground in terms of creatively looking at how some of these artists from the past created their characters. And it really helped me inform, ways of addressing, how would I approach a character design or something, or backgrounds. It's been great. So, I see this little stuff on the side here, and I think that's Chloe popping in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Checker Chloe found
is
your
that
old blog.
Yeah. Is that the right? It's still active, but I don't really post, and so it's but anyway, yeah. So it's kind of a jack of all trades type thing. I still do. I did release a book that I illustrated last year. Terrible timing, but it's actually done really well. It was what was it? I have it over here. It's Tales of the Dairy Godmother, Chuck's Ice Cream.
Yes.
It's through the Farm Bureau, American Foundation. Let's see, I should get this right.
I was going to say USDA, right? Because that's the only.
No, that's for grading of beef.
No, it's
American.
It's dairy. What do I know? I'm not a farmer.
American Farm Bureau Foundation for Agriculture. So also known as the Farm Bureau. So but that's actually proven to be very successful through, of course, farming communities, but educational wise, it's been a lot of fun to talk to kids about getting pooped on by a cow, because that's actually what happened to me. So and I've been told by the farmer when that happened, it's like, now I'm officially a farmer. So I'm like, hey,
that means the cow likes you.
Yeah.
It happens frequently. I don't know.
Followed me around all day.
So.
No.
Claimed you as its own.
So yeah, it's been nice to kind of go back and forth through illustration and storyboard. So that's basically, it's funny how I used to call myself just animator. Then it was like animation director. And then for a while it was just illustrator. you know. And so now I officially call myself a children's book picture book illustrator and storybook author. I'm sorry, let me get that straight. Storyboard artist and
Yes.
picture book illustrator. So it's whatever artist.
So just
I
kind of one of the coolest jobs
Yeah.
anyone could have.
Oh
Yeah.
okay. It's all in the eye of the beholder, right?
Well, yeah, from the outside looking in, maybe.
No, actually, it is fun. Honestly, the best thing is the responses I get, especially for TV shows that I've illustrated. I'm sorry, it's boarded, and I've worked on. But also, when I get sometimes I'll get photos from parents or teachers who've like they're reading my a book I've illustrated to like a classroom, and that to me is like some of the best. That's definitely why I do it. I love the response, and I might be 50, something years old, but I definitely love to look at the world through the eyes of a child and how a kid might imagine things or what they would like to or be curious about. And so that's actually the approach I took, especially with the most recent book I illustrated, is how would a young 10-year-old boy look at life on a farm, and his reaction. So it's been it's a lot of fun. With my kids now older, they're like, I have an adult daughter in college and my son is a teenager. It's like, they're definitely not the kids that I can just sit around and draw and see what they're, how they're acting. But it's, I'm not ready for grandkids, that's for sure. So.
Yeah. Someday you'll run out of inspiration and you'll need more little feet patting around to illustrate.
But not right now. No,
you had some examples of illustrations that you did on your kids that were actually pretty interesting on your website, where it was like a West Coast beach versus an East Coast beach.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really cool. Yeah. It's absolutely the truth.
So East Coast it's actually you're going to the beach, but at the West you're going to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And and I remember I always thought it was a weird thing. Like, you mean the beach, right? And they're like, no, we don't call it. I mean, yeah, there's a beach, but nobody. It's not like you're going to be laying out. It's going to be like you're going to be wearing a hoodie, and you're going to be looking for sticks and rocks and stuff, and not like getting some sun. So, but because we lived out in Portland when I worked at Leica. We moved out to Portland for about 7 years, and got the West Coast vibe and loved it. We really do miss it. We definitely had some great friends that we made there. But basically all of our family is East Coast. We decided it was time to move back. And so I'm glad we did. I'm close to my parents, and I get to see the kids and that sort of thing. So it's definitely a family thing.
Yeah.
For a reason for moving. But
that's awesome. So what's really cool, and you kind of touched on this, is the fact that you have been animating from like what we kind of imagined as kids as what animating was, which is like the old Disney documentaries we saw where they would like pull out the slides and like trace over and like
flipping. They do definitely flip. So I would you got into a groove, and that's actually kind of something I really miss is the actual action of putting a page between each of your fingers, and you could flip 5 drawings across. And because you're trying to get the movement right, and now you can do that through other ways, like I think Procreate has a way you can actually, it's like what they call onion skinning or onion skin. And so it's just a different method. There was something zen-like.
The tactile feel.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it was and it was a certain groove I would get into, and when you get it right and you're erasing and drawing, redrawing, and erase again, there was something really just very satisfying, especially when you make a pencil test, which we have a camera set up with the lights and stuff, and take the page down, and then shoot it 1 or 2 frames, take the next one down, and shoot again. So, and then we had like some certain methods, and depending on the studio, but once you saw the movement and actually see your drawings come alive, that was such a thrill. That's like the total dopamine hit. That's just like, wow. When that first happened, when I was in college, I took one of my classes in college. I took a it was funny. It was non-camera techniques, and so it was like you had to draw on film and stuff. But to see it move, it was just such a thrill.
I am God. I have created life
Yeah,
on the
it's like,
page.
yes, it was such a moment. It really was, and then once I realized, I figured out timing. That was another thing. It's almost like there's been as an artist in I drew, like, I've been drawing since I was a kid, of course, just like any other kid, but I just kept at it. And there's definitely moments, and I could still remember specific moments where actually, like it was an aha moment where it's almost like a door just opened for me. And one of them was when I figured out perspective, and I was pretty young. And
perception. What am I saying?
Perspective.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Perspective is such a huge thing, and people don't realize that.
Yeah.
But like once you get, I started out drawing cubes in college, like to get the whole perspective thing done. You draw a vanishing point way off in the distance or whatever.
Yeah.
And you draw the lines to it. But people don't realize that like there's perspective even in like things that are close to you. People, for instance, there's foreshortening in the arm, the leg, all these other things that once you completely understand it, you're like, that's how people do it. That's how they draw the things.
It was interesting too when the way this happened. I remember looking at a table, and in my head, originally as kids, we're just a table. We're going to draw like a rectangle or square with legs. Draw all the straight lines down. But I was like, but I'm looking at it, noticing that these lines are going off into the distance, and it doesn't look square or rectangle. It looks like a rhombozoid or whatever, in my head. But but saying so, I was looking at it as I was seeing it, and not as a symbol of a
You were
table.
seeing in 2 dimension instead of 3.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Right. Well, seeing in 3 dimensions, not 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like the concept of a table was not important as what I was seeing.
Right.
So
you started recognizing like the shapes within the symbols.
Because think about because as kids we're drawing symbols basically. We're drawing a sun with a circle with rays coming off of it.
Got to have the rays. Yep.
And I had another moment where I remember I was coloring one time, and I was like, we used to always color the sky was always at the top. And I remember one time I was like, but I see that the sky it goes down to the ground. That's how I remember telling my mom that.
Oh,
the sky goes down to the ground, Mom. She's like, okay, yeah, all right. But she was an artist too, so she kind of knew, but it was just the way I said it, very kid-like,
It's insightful.
But I, going back to the other aha moment for me for animation was when I used to, with the limited knowledge I had of animation, I shot everything under film, under camera, each drawing 2 times because I was told that's what you do. What we call shooting on 2s. See, it basically shoot it twice. It would be like 2 frames of film,
right?
And of course, 24 frames equals 1 second. 30 for video, and so you can get away with like not having to draw 24 drawings for a second. You just do 12, But yeah. See, is that your aha moment, Nick?
No, you're just putting all the pieces together.
Yeah,
like,
and so
I was looking at.
So I was. I'm sorry. But I was like, I realized at one point I forgot to do 2 for this one drawing, and it had a quicker movement to it in the playback, and I was like, wait a second. And I went and I started like figuring something out. I was like, well, if I just give it a punch here, like say if a character's punching, I would do 2 at the far points where like the arm was back, and then I would do a 1 right in the middle, and then do 2 or 3, whatever. And it was a punch there. It was like it was a quicker movement. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I found out. Like, this is gold for me. This is gold, Jerry. And so
gold in the pictures.
Yeah. But it was then I realized that, that's what, people should know that, but it's just learning it on my own was such it really kind of solidified like this moment for me, this time of like, I really love this. I really want to do more of this. So, So yeah, definitely. I've had my moments of being able to animate certain things for the commercials. I would set aside like one of my favorite. I definitely want to animate this. So when as a director, I don't have to direct or animate everything. I directed. I moved. I get other people to do that for me, or depending on whoever's my assistant. But sometimes I would save the good stuff for me. So,
Yeah.
I loved animating so much, and I just but yeah, one of the things I've noticed, especially since now that I moved on to children's book illustration, and then and now storyboard. Storyboarding is it's similar to it's almost like a glorified comic book if you think about it, where you're doing the keyframes or the main points of the main storytelling moments. And so the good thing is that as an animator, I already had like the knowledge of like how characters emote, express themselves, poses, and all that. And so being a storyboard artist with an animation background, it's a little unusual. It's mostly sometimes storyboard artists move on to become directors. I was already a director, being an animator, and then now I'm going back to I won't say go back. It's just directing. I had my time with that. It was fun, but honestly, the storyboarding has actually been a lot of. It's been a thrill, because if you think about it, what I'm doing is I'm basically a visual storyteller. I take written word, I take a script from a TV show, I take a manuscript for a book, and I look and I try to conjure up images based off what I think would be best for the story at hand. And whether it means like drawing 500 drawings for this one page, as long as I get it right, as long as it communicates like perfectly what I think is perfect for this, the better. So actually one of the I had a chance a while back in the 90s when everybody was collecting animation cells and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Disney's 9 Old Men?
Yes.
Disney's 9 Old Men?
Yeah.
Michael is our in-house Disney expert, so he seems really excited right now.
Are you talking about
Nick,
the Seven
Nick
Dwarfs?
Is on the opposite of that, right? Nick
Yeah.
does not know. Okay.
I am personally a drawer of sorts, so
he has an Instagram page called Nice Drawing Nick, and that's
nice.
That's his
nice
end.
drawing, Nick. Okay,
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
When I first, actually, it was back in the day when back in college, I did start out my own. I tried to start as an illustration, do my own little business. It was called Art by Ward. So yeah, keep it simple. There was or two of the 9 Old Men. Most famous would be Frank and Ollie, and they were still alive at this time, and so they were going around the country, and I think they were in their 80s at the time. And I think they ended up living to be in their 90s. They're promoting something, and they happened to be in Atlanta, so I went down to the gallery where they were, and I didn't have the money to buy whatever it is they were selling, and so I couldn't get any signatures. Not that I wanted, but I just wanted to meet them. Just say, hey, wow, this is basically animation royalty, And so Ollie was a little sick and under the weather, so he wasn't really saying that much. But I had a chance to talk to Frank Thomas, and I asked him. I said, the most basic thing that like young animators do is like, what advice would you give to a young animator such as myself, to get into the business? And so he had what I look back on it at the time, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is gold, what he was telling me. But I'm realizing it was probably a pat answer, but it's still gold. Mm-hmm. He said, first of all, he goes, draw. And he said,
yep.
And then 2 was observe everything. And then the third thing, actually, I think he said, observe everything first, communicate well, whatever you're drawing, make sure it can be communicated, like what you're trying to say here. And then the third thing was draw. So I was immediately trying to write this down as soon as I met him. And so I've actually, what he said is not just for animators, but it's also for just basically anyone within the especially with the storytelling, fields, is the same situation. It's like to keep the idea of keep drawing, as Nick, it's you were talking to you have an Instagram account to keep drawing, and it's just
it's my accountability partner. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically to keep that mind keep that mindset active and strong. I honestly, it's funny because the irony here is that I draw so much, but I do it only for work, and I don't do anything on my side. And I hate that. I hate that I don't have a side hustle as kind of a.
Mine's flip-flopped. I wish I could draw for work, but I do it mostly in my off time.
No,
So
no,
I'd hate it if I had to draw every day. I probably would, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would say that there have been times where it's been soul sucking, but and I have to say that that's one of the things that I've noticed a big change in my throughout the career of like when I first started out and where I am at now is that it is funny because when I was first starting out, you're trying to get your name out. It's like I felt like I was so very overconfident with even the like most minor drawing. I'd say I just put it out there, and it's like, but now I feel like I'm underconfident. I'm just like, oh no, it's not worth getting out there. Anyway, my wife is saying, oh my gosh, this is great. Why aren't you showing it to people? I'm like, I don't know what they'll think.
The problem is you know so much that you have all that information in the back of your head, and of course it's loud and it's shouting at you whenever you're drawing. But you're like, oh, this is garbage, this is garbage, this is garbage, and then all you need is that input from somebody else to be like, oh no, this is good.
No, exactly. Like, you do have sometimes it is about a perspective, and so to hear it from other people, sometimes it's actually best to hear it from people that's not like your loved ones. Nothing against them, of course, but it is good also. That's why it's important for peer input. So
we'd call that a critique, because I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a graphic designer by day. So in college we had a bunch of critiques. Every project we did, we put our project up on the board, and then people would come by and they'd say mean stuff about it.
Hey, this is bad, and I hate it.
They'd say, hey, this is bad. Why'd you do this? And then you'd be like, well,
that explains why every time I send you a project, you're like, well, these are some things that I don't like. Like,
it's important to have that criticality about
I'm not ready to show you yet.
Yeah, that's how you get better at things, is when people say mean stuff about it, and then you're like, oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah. Maybe that font doesn't need to be Comic Sans, and then you go ahead and change it and make
but
the
it's
colors
fun, playful.
Comic.
It's an ironic take on
no. I'm using Comic Sans ironically. Right. People will get it.
Like one of the first lessons you learn going through like any sort of like design or art school, do not have babies. Like, do not get so attached to your work that if someone says like one bad thing about it, that you're gonna break. Yeah, dude, that you're not gonna break down and cry in the corner.
No,
it's killing your darlings.
The art school thing, starting out early, is definitely some of it is basically giving you a thicker skin.
It's jarring too, because you invest 3 hours in something, and then you put it up on the board, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is awful. This is terrible."
And it's actually interesting. I have a story when I was in art college. When I was taking illustration. I had my teacher. He was actually a kind of a well-known illustrator within the children's book world. He was the one that did the illustrations of Ramona the Brave. From the 70s, and so he was a fantastic illustrator, but he wasn't the best when it came to as a teacher. He could be a pretty abrasive and very just kind of stoic without any really which is fine. Maybe he was good when he was younger as a teacher, but later on he was on his way out. He was when I say on his way out, not like they were kicking him out. He was, I should clarify, he was about to retire. That's what it was. And so I'll never forget, there was one time where we had I think our classes were Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on Thursday he said, okay, this is what you need to do for Tuesday. See you on Tuesday. So we had the weekend to work on it. So Tuesday comes around and we put up, like you were saying, it's like everybody put their pieces up against the wall. And so he comes in a little bit later, and he's walking across. He's looking at everybody. He's with his hands behind his back, just not saying a word. And he turns around at one point and he says, "Not one of you did this right.
Oof.
Redo it. I'll see you on Thursday." Seriously. And that was it.
Redo it? What does that even mean? It
was like an hour long. I know, exactly. So
did you ever figure out like what was right?
Yeah, exactly. So that was a nice little lesson.
Yeah. I had a professor just like that when I was going through graphic design school, where I was just like, all right, cool, like gonna leave all the critiquing, let you all critique each other's like for like 2 hours, then he's gonna walk around for 10 minutes and be like, all right, cool, yeah, it's not good, so just retry it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's awesome. That's
great feedback.
Anybody want to any of your listeners want to go into graphic design or illustration?
Who's to say? Maybe. Good luck out there is what we have to say about that.
I'm sure.
I hear that the military is pretty open. They're all interested. They're looking for creative types.
It's a little different, but okay.
Yeah. So Ward, so one thing that I want to hear more about is, so what was that transition like from moving from like pencil and paper to a more like digital landscape?
Yeah, that's so interesting. That was kind of what I was getting into, was like, you've been there from like, there's been this like boom of technology in the past couple decades where like everything has gone digital, and the like introduction of the internet and it slowly working its way into our lives has probably changed your field specifically leaps and bounds. So yeah, I definitely want to hear about that too.
Yeah, it is interesting. I would say, not to make it into a generational thing, but like I always find it interesting that Generation X, which is what I'm flat out in the middle of, is we had one foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, and we're kind of bridging that. I know even some millennials will say that they do as well, so which is cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Not you.
I get credit.
Thank you for that pass.
Because Gen X, we don't care. We don't know. We don't really. We're supposed to be like slackers and not know. No. So anyway,
slackers. What?
With that in mind, I have always enjoyed the aspect of going between like both traditional and digital, or tradigital, as some people would say, for the.
Nice.
In fact, it was for a while, like for my first books that I was illustrating. One was the actual Michael Phelps book. And then the one right after that was Chicks Run Wild. I would actually draw on paper the lines, and then I would scan them, and then I would color them, and then paint digitally, and even scanned like I think for the Chicks Run Wild, for some of the patterns for the chicks, for each of their pajamas and what the mom was wearing, I found some like really neat fabric patterns, and I just scanned them and kind of digitally alter them. And so that's where so like cool. Yeah, that's where like Photoshop and all that really works. I was just playing around and see what would work, and because the patterns were like from like feed bags, which is kind of funny because they're chickens, and so I was like, hey, I thought that would be kind of a nice little tie-in. Made it homey, and but I think what happened was I realized that even though it was nice to work with having a kind of a real pencil or brush feel, by using actual pencil and stuff, I found that once some artists were actually creating digital brushes and pencils through Photoshop, they were actually just as good. And I started seeing a change there, and it did simplify my work, my path of production, of going from sketch to final, and it was actually simplifying my the process and keeping it like just taking out one extra step, which would be scanning, which would take up time and space on my computer. So with that in mind, I was thinking, well, this might be better for me to just go ahead and see what I can do, see if I can find the right brushes that would benefit me, or say this feels like me. Now I'm not one of those people to actually make brushes. I know there's a lot of people that do that. Like I think Kyle Webster is one that is known for his and honestly, he's brilliant at what he does. And so I do have a lot of his brushes that I use, and I'll just go through and see. Sometimes I'll just like, I'll see what he's done with the oil brushes and see, if something there kind of speaks to me. And it is kind of a personal thing sometimes. It's like, it's weird. It's like when you are drawing with a pencil, you get like, you have almost like kind of not that I'm like going to be all woo woo, but it's like you feel kind of like it's like a personal extension of you. And so for me, pencils, I still draw with pencils. I definitely have like a little sketchbook that I'll draw some of my ideas and stuff, and
Oh, look at that.
yeah. And then I have like of course notes and stuff, but it's fun. I draw people, you know and so for that I still have that as a connection to the actual tactile, um, of course I'm showing you guys, and if it's a podcast, people are like, what is he doing there? I'm actually showing
we have a video version too.
yeah.
So join our YouTube channel to see the visual version of that. That's your little advertisement for our YouTube channel.
See, I did it on purpose.
I was going to ask, like, there's something you miss with like going all digital, don't you? Because there's something about the tactile feel of a pen or a pencil in your hand, and you're moving it around on the paper, and you get to feel the feedback of the paper, and like you miss something when you go all digital, right?
I would say yes, I do miss that. Now, even if I would have like even drawing on the iPad Pro with the clear surface, like a slick surface, sometimes they even have like I forget that there is some kind of skin that you can place over it to make it feel like paper.
Oh, okay.
I haven't tried that yet, but some people, that I've adapted. I've had to do enough adapting throughout my career. Anyway, when I was an art director, when I was an animation director, first time I was able to use a huge Cintiq screen. That was actually really interesting to kind of shift from that, as opposed to using a Wacom tablet, where it's like I'm looking at the screen and drawing elsewhere, but then shifting over to Cintiq, where you're drawing on the screen, which feels more natural. I've learned to kind of adjust. You kind of have to sometimes. And I don't mind that. I'm all for like new technology and stuff. I think what's happened is that I have gotten into a groove of my within my work and in my techniques that I use and materials that I've kind of kept going in this. I've been going in a direction for a certain while that I'm afraid that maybe technology is getting ahead of me. So and see, even though I have an iPad Pro, I don't have Procreate on it, which I've heard would be a great asset to use and figure out, because you can actually do animation on it. So I've heard that people use that for storyboards. So I'm like, that I need to start looking into. And also I don't use, for most storyboard artists within the industry, a lot of the studios require that you learn Storyboard Pro. I don't use that. I use something else. I use Sketchbook, which actually used to be an app for the iPad or whatever, drawing tablet, but you can actually get it for your computer. And so I use that. But knowing how I see how things are, how they're progressing, I'm going to have to like learn Storyboard Pro, which is fine. I'll just have to put on my, adaptability hat or whatever you call it. So try to, run with the young kids. So
right. So
it's
you
like
did
the whole idea of being like a forever student. Always like constantly having to learn. Yeah,
because let's put it this way, I've yet to go full on like I don't do the what is it, the Adobe Creative Cloud.
Sorry, that's like our whole bread and butter.
That's my bread and butter.
So this is funny. So I'm actually still holding on with dear life on with Creative CS6.
CS6.
Yeah. And if you want to hear this, Nick, my After Effects is CS4.
Yeah. If it works, it works. I mean, you're the one doing it professionally, not us.
So right, exactly. But the thing is, no, I've learned. I found out that for my OS for Mac, I can't go up to a certain point unless I update everything. So that's something I have to think about. Because that does adjust my expenses and that sort of thing. I'm sure for some people it's like that's what they're used to. it's something I just have to think about if I want to do that,
Yeah,
So,
you do a majority of freelance, right? Like you'll sign
yeah,
on to projects, but
but
you're
that's all
never
I
with
am.
like a company. So
Yeah,
you don't have a company to be like, I need this, so here's my expenses.
Yeah.
Right. No, right. I don't have like, I wish, I could say like, oh, I wish a studio would say, hey, we'll buy this for you. That's not how it is.
Mhm.
If there is, in some cases, like for instance, the Toon Boom, which is basically the technology that a lot of people do, the digital ink and paint, and like I was mentioning, Storyboard Pro, that's part of the Toon Boom technology. You can buy it either per month, or you can, or buy it for per year, or you can actually outright purchase it, like, so it depends. And which actually I like that option, but I know that Adobe doesn't give you that. It's either
I wish they
monthly,
did. I really do.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, again, it's one of those things I have to probably think about. And I think maybe, like I said, I've just finished up storyboards for the Ava Twist Scientist. And so for Netflix, which has been great, I think that even though they've been fine with me using Sketchbook, I don't know what they're saying behind my back, saying, why does this old guy keep using this this one program? I don't know. They're happy with my work, so that's all that matters, So
Yeah.
no.
The huge consideration is like buying your own software and all that. Like it didn't come into my mind until like all of a sudden you're out of a job and you don't have Creative Cloud. How are you going to make anything?
Oh yeah.
Because you can't
Right.
do, like, you got to pay the monthly subscription. And
Mhm.
fortunately, I do have a backup computer back there somewhere, but it runs all the CS6,
Mhm.
no problem. But
Yeah.
Just hold
unfortunately,
all
it's
the
on
old stuff
OS
back on
X
that.
High Sierra.
Yeah.
I do worry about like what just I have to do like an update on my OS system, but I have to make sure I don't go too high up,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's one of the nuts and bolts of just humdrum digital world, I guess.
you're on the screen.
Oh. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Hi.
I guess I'll see you.
Should I have Nate take me, I guess?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're keeping all of that.
I should have done this.
There's nobody here. What are you talking about?
She didn't know it was going to be a YouTube thing too, but that's fine. That's right. Yeah, she's buying a camera actually. So my wife is a
very cool.
photographer, so so she's going
cool.
out.
Hey, that's my
you know.
new job line of work.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, that's what I'm doing for a living
Oh,
now.
that's cool. All digital, or because she'll do both. She does actual film and
Yeah.
Polaroid as well as digital.
Yeah, mine will be all digital.
Okay, cool.
Very
Film's
cool.
a weird world, you know?
It really is.
Oh, it really is.
Film is like it's a permanent thing that you imprint on a piece of plastic or something.
We've done too much technology talk this episode. I want to talk about art, damn it. So you
Photography-
did some work. You did some work for the for G Magazine, and I'm interested to hear about that. I want to know if you took any inspiration from like political cartoonists and stuff like that. I know you had a couple political cartoons, quote unquote, on your website. So just kind of hear about that.
Yeah, that was actually that was during the time when I was still trying to. I believe I was. It was after being let go from Leica and me just mad frantic. I need to get my name out, so I immediately put together a website, and knowing that I could do illustration pretty quickly, I started. I knew some people within because of thanks to my blog, I was able to connect with people, art directors, and so I had a friend of mine who was an art director for G Magazine. In fact, his name was Martin G, which I thought was funny. G-E-E.
Nice.
Yeah, and he was great. He loved my work, and so he would send me some jobs my way, and so that I ended up doing. I think 2 covers for G Magazine. And then I did a couple of, I think it was like illustrations accommodating an article, or I think there's one for Nate Silver, and this was like 2008. So that election was really big because of Obama, and so I was actually really proud with that one because I split his face up into half red, half blue, and since he was always talking about the numbers, I had his I had the map behind him be the opposite colors. So if it was red on his left side, it'd be red on the right side behind him for the map. And the same for switch for the blue with a lot of numbers around. And in fact, that was actually, if you look at the numbers, that was done with pencil, I was using a Prismacolor sketch pencil, whatever. And so, yeah, but that's I
so
really
cool.
enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed working on that. And then, so working in that realm of doing caricatures, it's just not my thing. But sometimes it takes me a while to find the groove of finding a caricature of someone. I think I did one of what was it?
Michael Phelps is kind of in that drawing style. Would you say that?
Yeah, I've actually shared my process of how I was so off at the beginning of drawing him. But he had, at the time, when he was younger, he has a very distinct, very long, angular, weird face that I was like, I should be getting this. And for some reason, sometimes it's like I'm almost like too close to it, figuratively. And so sometimes I have to get away and then come back and see, oh, what sticks out to me? Oh, okay, his cheekbones or his jawline or something. So sometimes that it's almost like it's like working on a piece of clay. You got to massage it and work on it a lot more. So sometimes it'll take time. For some people, for some characters, it might be a lot easier for others. But for me, I'm just not a caricaturist, so it takes me a little bit longer to get to that point.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where it's like you have to not think about drawing the symbol of his face that you have in your head, but start drawing the actual shapes that you see in there.
Yeah, exactly. You have to say, what is it about this person that makes him that person?
Yeah.
What do we think of? What do we think of Michael Phelps besides besides that him being a swimmer? It's like
and having 1 million gold medals. Yeah.
So
he doesn't swim anymore, does he? He's
no,
he's retired.
The interesting thing about him is that I have never seen him. He only went one time to promote the book. It was post photo of the bong thing. The interesting story about, I'll tell this before we move on, whatever, is that the book was actually supposed to be titled. So the book is titled "How to Train with the T-Rex and Win 8 Gold Medals." Now that sounds weird, but in it he talks about I bench pressed so many 1,000 pounds. It's the equivalent of a T-Rex, So it's that sort of logic.
Gotcha.
And so originally it was titled "How to Eat Half a Car and Win 8 Gold Medals." And so the announcement of the book was supposed to come out on the Tuesday after Super Bowl of that year. And so Super Bowl Sunday was the famous photo was released of
oh no.
And so Tuesday rolls around, nothing. There's no publicity, anything, or nothing officially announced that there was a book. And so I'm like, Wednesday rolls around, nothing. Thursday, nothing. So I sent an email on Friday going, hey, to my art director, hey, what's going on? I thought they were going to say something. I thought it was a big deal. So I get a call from my art director, which is unusual. You don't ever get calls. And so and I said, hey, what's up? She goes, hey, are you free this weekend? We can pay you. We need to redo we're redoing the title. We need to redo the cover. And at this point, the book had already been made, and it's so rare to go back and redo the cover. So I had to. So they said, we have a new title. We just didn't want any jokes to happen. Of course, still, what happens? He goes on Conan, when the book comes out, and Conan still makes a joke about it. About I don't know,
eating a car,
or just munchies or something, and it's just so funny. So
a pot joke. I don't know.
But he's
hey, Conan O'Brien made a joke about the book that you illustrated. That's dope.
Yeah.
Famous.
So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, I do have also a screenshot of Michael Phelps. This actually, I forgot. He made a joke when it happened, and then Michael Phelps came by months later after the book had been out, and then he appeared promoting the book. But it was almost like he was on to other things. I've never really seen him promote the book. That it's like I don't know. who knows?
Maybe
Hey,
some
Michael,
sort of a mention of
Yeah.
his past. Hey, Michael, if you watch this, first off, why? How'd you
That's why.
how'd you
How
get
did
here?
you find us? Yeah.
And you're what? You're like you're like almost 45 minutes into this thing, and you're still listening, Michael. Hey,
Come on,
what's going
Michael.
on, pal?
He's like following me. It's like, is he going to talk about the book?
He's
Yeah.
waiting for it.
Him and his lawyers are just sitting there, like twiddling their thumbs. That's what they've been doing.
Oh, I'm getting a call from his lawyers now. What the heck?
Yeah.
Wow, that was quick.
So
That's
awesome.
crazy.
So let's talk about your shows that you've worked on.
Well,
and then we'll move slowly into wrapping things up because there are a couple of shows that have been awesome that you've worked on.
Well, yeah. So real quick, first before that, there was 3 things from his website that I looked at that
got the dirt.
I didn't know. I didn't realize it, but going through your website unlocked some childhood memories of mine.
Oh,
no. I was raised on Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And so going through like the animation side of your website, there was 3 commercials that are on here that I distinctly remembered every single little detail of. It was the Scrappy Loses It commercial, which is one of my favorite commercials of all time.
Wow, so you remember it?
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, and then it was the Cookie Crisp one, the wooden cookie. That is one that I like reference to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so wild. Like, what is it that you reference?
It's the fake.
Oh my god, the wooden cookie.
Yeah. It was the fake, and like the ruining your own surprise. That, and then like I have actually used like the Cocoa Puffs elevator commercial as like a description of like my own like personal anxiety before. And like use that as like as an example of like, this is what this feels like.
Wow, that's so funny.
Ward, you made the Trix yogurt Spider-Man commercial.
What?
Yeah. I directed it. I mean, it's really bizarre because I think that was co-directed with the CG director at Primal Screen, because we had to. That was an unusual. We had to do. It's almost, if you notice, it's like half and half. It's like CG environment with 2D characters, and so those characters are strictly my design. That's like going
That's
to
your
flat.
style.
Yeah, I was for a while. I actually was a graffiti writer on the side, and I was working on these kind of chunky, blocky, flat character style, and they are kind of the output of that. Like, by that point, I was kind of into this style, and I was pretty happy. In fact, I think that was the last thing I worked on before I went to Leica. And then Leica, I did the Cookie Crisp spot.
Yeah.
And,
which is crazy, because that is like totally, now that I think about it, like Leica's style, that like claymation-esque 3D.
Yeah, stop motion with 2D. Now it's funny, they told me, it's like, even though they had, because it's basically the remnants of like the Will Vinton Studios claymation, and so they're known for their stop motion. They had told me they had never really done a commercial with 2D hand drawn characters at that point. I'm sure they've done so many more, but that was actually a really great project to work on, because the studio of where they were building all the sets and stuff was like right behind our we were just right down the hallway from my office, and I'd just go in there and just on my lunch break just look and see what else that they've been building. Like, oh, they got like a little chair here for the we have a little cereal box, and it's just really for the kitchen. It was just really cool to watch how they built all this stuff. Took pictures of the building of the actual Cookie Crisp, like the little door actually opened and stuff. It's
the Trojan horse, the Trojan cookie.
Totally
the Trojan
cookie. I think that's what they called it. And then what was the other thing you were talking about?
The Scrappy Loses It commercial.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was done at Primal. That was that almost broke me. I almost lost my job over that. And I'll tell you why. It's because it was such a big there's so many characters in it that practically all the Cartoon Network, cartoon, all that had to be put in there. So we had so many animators that we were calling from the Atlanta area, said like, can you do this? Can you do that? And we had one guy who's kind of known in the animation industry at that time. We call him Clay, but it was you guys would know him as C. Martin Croker, because his name is on a lot of the Adult Swim, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. He was the voice of Zorak and Moltar. Quite a character. He actually animated some key moments of like Scrappy. Actually, when he's losing it, he's like, "You and you and you."
You can tell.
I was like, "We'll give Clay that because he'll love it." And he's like just as he was. He unfortunately passed away about 6 years ago, I believe. But he was just this font of animation knowledge, and so he was always fun to work with. He was frustrating at times because he'd be so sidetracked by, oh yeah, you got to look at this other thing. I'm like, no, focus on your character. But he was always such a character, literally. And then, but I was behind on that, and in terms of like delivery and stuff, and it really made me nervous. After that, I had to really learn how to kind of manage my time better. I just was not prepared. I felt like I was definitely in over my head. But honestly, it was such a great piece. I'm glad that people remember it.
Yeah.
Well,
that was like, if I remember right, that was like one of the because Cartoon Network, they still did back in those days like a lot of the commercials where they'd have like integrations between like the different characters and IPs. But this was like one of the first ones I remember where it was like the entire lineup, because it was like Powerpuff Girls, Scrappy Doo, like Cow and Chicken. And
I will have to say this is the first time that that the whole idea of Scrappy Doo as a bad guy was introduced.
You perpetuated that. You started
before it. I would say I did. It was whoever wrote it. At Cartoon Network.
Come on.
So fun. It's a funny thing. Like it actually stems from like culture around Scrappy Doo, because like Scrappy Doo at one point saved Scooby Doo, like the series, as this fresh new take, and like this new character and this new energy.
I hated him.
But that's the thing. If you ask a lot of people who actually like went through that process, like that time with him, everyone fucking hated him.
It depends on also probably like how old they are, because me coming from the earlier stuff, I was already starting. I think when Scrappy, I believe, was that early 80s? No, or late 70s.
I believe it was around that same time. Yeah.
Anyway, I was at that point. I was already kind of considered "quote unquote" too old for cartoons, but like I we still watch that stuff. But I was like realizing that the quality wasn't as the same, and I could just tell that they were come up with some really weird stuff, and the storylines are just not up to snuff from what I used to was used to from the earlier stuff. It's just bizarre to think that we're still talking about Scooby Doo. 50 years later,
it was like one of those things, like they turned Scrappy into just like this MacGuffin, where it's like he's gonna do like something goofy. It's like Scooby and Shaggy are gonna do something goofy, and then Scrappy's gonna be even goofier. And it was just like, no.
So we shot the actual live action at a movie theater in Atlanta. Hey, there's this
Steve Price, MD. He's back.
Hey,
I better be his favorite college friend. I better be. No, so what I was going to say is that we shot at a movie theater, like on the off hours, and and then we digitally made it look like it was a studio in the background for the opening shot. So all the shots of the door that we had, I already had that. I had all that storyboarded out, and so we were actually getting a camera up on the up on a stand just to try to get these shots, down shots and up shots. So it was really fascinating to kind of be on location set for like a silly little commercial, right? So there was a shot at the very end, if you notice, where when it's Dexter comes up to Scrappy, and so when he of course Scrappy says his line, and it makes Dexter sad, and he starts crying, and then he goes off into the studio. The door opens automatically and shuts. I remember our creative director, Doug, he did not understand that. I had to explain to him that this is cartoon logic. He goes, we need to have that already open. And I go, no, it doesn't need to be open, because it'll mess up shot. I can't remember exactly why, but I was like, no, just have it, we'll just have it open and close. And he just, it's like, we need to have some reason, some logic there to why, or he had to have him open. I'm like, no, it just, open, shut, and nobody will notice. And sure enough, nobody does. It's just
No.
you
I
watch it.
didn't.
It's like a ghost that opens up and closes. But it's like I knew that in how many times have we seen things open and close in
Right.
cartoons and with no logic whatsoever? It's just cartoon logic, you know. So I
Right.
just thought I thought it was like, Doug, come on, I know you're
Come on,
smarter
man.
than this, but it was just it's just kind of to him. He has a very logical mind. He's basically the owner of Primal Screen, and he's a brilliant guy. It was just kind of funny. I had to like clue him in on this cartoon logic that somehow
Yeah.
is going over his head. I just thought it was
It's
funny.
the lack
you
of
know?
logic thereof. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like have him go watch what was it? Who Framed Roger
Oh
Rabbit?
yeah,
If he
yeah.
does,
I
then I'll
mean,
get it.
I grew up on all that. I mean, that was Roger Rabbit, Little Mermaid. All that was kind of like my introduction to. I really want to do this.
Yeah.
That was all coming around 88, 89. And so I was like, that was me like realizing I think I can do this. And so, I mean, I grew up, of course, with Looney Tunes
Right.
as a kid, but
Great.
those two things happening really close to each other was like, wow, I can see where this is going. I like, this
Yeah.
is really good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we kind of touched on some of the stuff you did for Adult Swim. Some of the stuff that we were coming of age, we were in our like 13, 14,
It's
15.
so weird.
And that's like where this
Bizarre.
hits for us on the timeline.
Yeah.
And that's when like we were watching things like Aqua Teen Hunger Force and like, you know,
What a bizarre show. Looking back on it.
Yeah.
absolutely.
All of
somebody-
Adult Swim shows were.
It was so bizarre. Like, so I have listed on as being on one episode. I was what they call. I did sequencing. We took the drawings for the episode, and I was working at a studio where it was being farmed out. It was not at a Cartoon Network per se, but sometimes if they needed some help of like just putting together some of the pieces, like like a character animating. Being animated or a cycle, like a walk cycle or something. Sometimes they would go to other studios, and so I was working at a studio, and that's how. But we all knew each other. We knew the people that behind it, and so they came into the studio, and I remember reading. I was like, "What is this robot?" Like, it's like a lunch, like it's
like
a
Happy Meal.
A Happy Meal. It was just so bizarre.
Meatwad? I don't know.
But no, it was just kind of neat to see it kind of become its own thing from that. And in fact, I think the studio I was working for, one of the live action directors, he was the one that actually did all the. If you ever watched the first airing of Adult Swim, it was like a big deal. It was like you had to. They had like all this like it's like swimming theme idea.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
All those shots were done by this one director. And I knew him, and he eventually worked at one point. He started working for Primal Screen. Trip Ramey was his name. He unfortunately passed away several years. So, but he was actually really great. He understood like the concept and just of course cartoon logic. He would be like doing live action shots for us for some of the 2D characters and that sort of thing. So
yeah, he inspired a whole TikTok trend recently of people doing like Adult Swim intros.
Really,
and yeah,
That's a trend?
a lot of those have fallen back on the old like Adult Swim at a pool kind of thing, like people underwater swimming by, and then like the Adult Swim logos there.
That's so great.
So-
I wish that he was alive to see that. That would have been that he would be freaking out. He also, I don't know if any of you guys follow my Twitter, but I have thanks to him, I actually did some glorified storyboards for Andre 3000 of Outcast, like
very
ago.
cool.
Yeah.
So that would be a whole other story, but it's
that for Andre 3000's show that was on Cartoon Network for like do you know which one I'm talking about, like Theater 3000?
Oh yeah, that was the what was that called? I should know that. Anyway, this was actually for a movie that they wanted to do called Equimini, and it was right before Equimini was being released, so it was 98.
Right.
But I got to meet him through Trip. It was Trip, and he knew the director Brian Barber, who actually ended up doing a lot of like Outcast videos. But at the time, they were still kind of they had like maybe 2 albums out and about to have their third, which ended up being Equimini.
Oh, very cool.
And there's a whole bunch of story. It's not like my career base. It's just a funny, like I kept running into Andre 3000 throughout the years. At one point, I saw him in the mall, and at that point, I had like a young baby. My son, he was like a couple months old, and I saw him in a bookstore at this really kind of upscale mall in Atlanta, and I asked him if he remembered me, and he barely remembered me. But at one point, my son was just so fussy and would not stop crying. He goes, "Do you mind?" And he put his hands out, and he took my son. He was kind of bouncing him, like going, "What's the matter, little man? What's the matter, little man? Why are you so fussy?" And I'm like, this is like a moment.
Yeah.
Andre 3000 in a baby blue suit, decked out for like a date. He had his date with him, and here he is talking to some white dude from years ago. I did some work for him years ago. And he's holding my baby, trying to calm him. And I just like, oh my gosh. And my wife had just stepped away, went to another store. So when he left, literally my wife came in and I was like, "Oh, you will not believe this." She was like, "What? You got to be kidding me." It was such a funny story. But
You're
That's
not going to believe
awesome.
this.
I know.
Andre 3000.
It was so, yeah. He was holding Ezra. He was holding him up.
That's crazy.
Oh.
My
We're coming
family's
from Steve
favorite
Price, MD.
Ward's
Steve.
work will always be
Oh.
Chicks Run Wild. Yep.
Thanks, Steve. So yeah, Steve, I knew from college days. I think he was like a recruiter, I think, for Chloe. Can she check?
Yeah,
for us?
Chloe wants to be brought back in
Yeah,
before we
bring her
wrap
in.
anyway, so let's bring her in.
Yeah.
Bring her in.
There she is. I can't remember what your dad did at college.
Chloe, you're muted.
Oh, there was no
Man.
intro either. What the heck, man?
Oh, sorry. Did you want to hear my intro?
No, that's cool. You're already here.
No.
I'm sorry. Did you have an
Okay, I didn't
intro?
think
I
so.
guess I
She
kind
has
of
a little
prefer it.
video intro for when she fact checks us.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You know what?
Why
Bit
don't we do
aggressive,
that?
though.
Let's just do it. Let's just
Just
show
Roll the
Ward.
tape.
Roll it.
I love it. That's great.
Wow, what a great
It's a little fun
It's
thing
fun.
that happens.
This is anticlimactic, but I honestly don't know
Oh.
what he was doing
Okay, cool.
at college. He spent so long in
He's
school.
listening. He can comment.
He'll comment,
so-
I'm sure, but he was
Yeah.
in school for so long.
Yeah.
because
Because he got a degree in music and then he went back for medical school. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
impossible to say.
So is he a doctor? So he's like Dr. Price.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
is
Dr.
Steve Price,
Dr.
MD.
Steve. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense. His name. So I knew him. So my roommate in college was a guitar player on the side, but he and Steve and two other guys were like in a band called The Stand. And yeah, and so I was like I was like, hey, let me make a poster for you guys. So I ended up making a poster where I would take they had promo shots, and I cut out their heads, and then I did a silly, like, this is late 80s, so I was doing like as if they were hairband.
Mhm.
And but they're not. They were like they were doing
Steve Price in a hairband is the most funny thing.
yeah, I probably gave them a
ever
lot of
heard.
hair. I can't remember. It was very funny. So the interesting thing is that that was a lot of fun just to kind of do that and play around and so we had it up at the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally I would do posters. Being the only artist type at that school, it's like a very small school, and they did not have art. I would do like posters here and there, and then occasionally I would see these posters being done by somebody else, and they were done really well, like really great lettering. And I was like, who is this? And I was like, who is doing these? Like, darn it, they're so good. Dang it. I almost was like competition.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up being the woman I married. It was actually my wife.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. She was
That
doing
is so cute.
so my wife was her father was the dean of students at that school, Coach Corona. He was also a coach. And
Dad
so
was talking about him earlier. He said he was a really cool guy, coached the
Yeah.
basketball team.
oh yeah, he coached basketball, he did aerobics, he was this dean of students all at once.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
You were basically like dating the president's daughter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but at the time it was like, who is this that's like doing some really cool posters? I was like, so a little, not like I was upset, but it's like, a recruiter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was such a great, it was such a funny moment to think that like there's a weird connection there. And then when I get like a message from you, I'm like, wait, Steve Price? Oh my gosh. It was like this waves of.
He has a grown kid.
I know, right? It is so bizarre. Because I do remember I kind of would go along and kind of watch them play at some of these places,
Mm-hmm.
And one story, I don't know if he wants me to tell. I just remember I thought it was so funny. He was known in the band like to be able to go and poop really quick. He would poop and he'd be done in like 2 minutes.
I know people like that. Yeah. It's a mystery.
I thought that was so funny. I was like, should I say this out? Like, does Chloe want to hear this? I didn't know if it's the same now.
Honestly, good for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Healthy.
Get it done. Get back on stage.
The bowels,
What a performer.
Might be one of the reasons he became a doctor, was to figure out how he had gained that superpower.
Maybe he'll chime in with his his
secret.
Do it. The secret, right?
Lots of
Tell us
fiber.
the secret. Well, he would say lots of fiber.
It's
True.
Oatmeal.
I'm still waiting for him to pop up, the little thing to pop up. He's probably like, no, I'm not going to go there.
Not on like the internet. That stuff lasts forever.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't mean to bring up the poop.
But here we go.
The band called me the fastest butt in the West. Hey, Steve, I'm actually still good friends with Craig. Craig was my roommate. He's actually he's like a doctor, like involved with like medical in Cincinnati too. So,
what is the pipeline between musician and doctor?
Don't know.
Who knows?
Those who can't teach. I don't know how you get around that, but whatever.
But
no, but you were making that point earlier. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should teach it.
That's true. Well, thank you, Ward, so much for coming on our show. We're running very short on time.
Yeah,
it is already.
It's been so much fun.
Over. It's been such a ride.
I'm
we
glad
could
it worked
probably
out.
do a whole second episode.
Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy how much you've gotten.
It's actually really fascinating to be able to, hear from people who actually watch these commercials when we were making them, because to me it was just a job. I was like,
sure,
yeah, these are fun. We will have our own fun with it, but it's sometimes you kind of forget about the audience that like, oh yeah,
and how it sticks with us for so long.
Yeah.
And so I love that. It's thanks Michael for that, because it was kind of neat to hear like that you actually remember these commercials. So
very, very vividly.
It's so great. I wish I had more insight. The fact that I almost got almost lost my job thanks to Scrappy.
Who has
and
so cool.
Like my dad said, we still read Chicks Run Wild to Jude all the time. He loves it.
That was a lot of fun to work on.
I love the detail about their clothes. That's cute.
Another thing I have, it's interesting. So, excuse me. Burp. Sorry. If you looked at all the little children's drawings of the chickens, in the book, you'll see like in the bedroom, there's all these little kids drawings of chickens. They're all done by both my kids, and then the author. I asked her. She had 3 kids, and so I said, "Can you have them each draw a chicken?" And I had the same thing. They're all like her 3 kids and my 2 kids' drawings.
But they just look like the chicks' little like self-portraits.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's so cute.
I wanted a legitimate like kid drawings, not like me drawing with my left hand type.
Right.
I was like, no, I want that's just be a great little touch, And then for at the end, we actually had, if you look at, you can see like where the mom goes wild. It's like you have like all these little details of like, I had fun with the takeoff on like Gone with the Wing or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All these like
there's so many little details.
Yeah, I had so much fun with that. So yeah, that was a great book to work on. And
well, they don't go unnoticed.
Oh,
for
cool.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Wow.
Well, guys, thanks so much for having me. It's I'm glad I didn't ramble, like I normally do.
It's been such a good time, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Have me back, I'm sure I can talk more. I could talk more. You know,
We're gonna have to
We
do
could
a
do
whole
this
My Little
again.
Ponies episode that we're gonna have to.
Oh,
bring
yeah.
in.
Oh
We
no.
could. We didn't even
We're
get
gonna
into
have
that.
to.
Now,
No.
okay, so if you get enough fan reaction from like, hey, do any of the bronies want me to talk? Then then I'll come back.
That'll be all
Yeah,
right.
we'll do an
We'll do a
expose.
live
We've-
Q&A.
we've-
Who knows?
We've got our hooks deep into the
Oh,
brony community.
I do want to
so-
say, like, okay, yeah, right. You guys had said something about like promoting and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I just finished. I did one episode of Snoopy in Space.
Mhm.
It's the Venus episode for season 2. That's on Apple Plus. That's already out. The work that I've done for Ava Twist Scientist, which is on Netflix right now, they have 6 episodes, and each episode has like 2 mini episodes, right? So basically, I have 12. All mine are not there yet. So I did 4 episodes for season 1.
Mhm.
They're not out, so I'm assuming they're going to be released at a later date. So just kind of tab that, and we'll but anyway, that's the stuff I've been working on. I've been really enjoying working with the people with Brown Bag Films on that show has been great. I really do enjoy working on shows like that where with kids, especially science related type stuff. It's always a big thrill. So,
We will
Yeah.
definitely plug your website and Wardomatic on all your socials.
Wardomatic
We'll
on
drop
Twitter.
the blog spot in there.
It's so old school. It's like
There's
wow.
not a new post since 2014, but we're gonna link it.
Yeah.
All
People are
right.
gonna want to see that.
But
And
I
then
have
I
some
think
great stuff like from it goes way back to 2004, I think.
I
Wow.
love all your
there's
self
10 years of
portraits.
blogging in there.
Nick is like,
Hmm.
2004. Wow.
That's what
You-
must be
you
nice
have
to
on
look
your-
at work.
You have on your website that you do commissions. Do you still do that? Like if our fans want to reach out?
Not as much because I'm
Fair.
the storyboard stuff just takes so much. But
Oh, yeah.
it's funny you brought that up because I am actually getting ready now that I'm done with storyboarding right now. I actually am doing one commission right before Christmas, so I like to do that sometimes as a way to kind of it's a nice balance,
Oh, yeah.
Going
They're
back-
very
Maybe
personal and
we'll reach
sweet.
out
Oh, yeah.
for
Yeah.
some entertain this
Yeah.
commissioned art.
The
Oh,
boys.
Could be fun.
I would actually love that so much.
I will pay
be
you
fun.
$3 million.
Starting the bidding
Got it.
high, huh?
I'll
buddy?
give you all my bitcoins.
$3 million Zimbabwean dollars.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
There it is.
Sounds good to me.
Well, thank you again, Ward.
Yeah.
Do our quick little sign off real quick. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. We always appreciate it. If there's anything that you haven't heard us cover, I mean, sometimes we just go wild and we bring on an awesome illustrator and animator to come on and tell us about their career. But if there's
Someday.
something that we haven't covered in the realm of entertainment that you want to hear us cover, or you just want to hear someone talk about for a while, shoot us an email. It's the quickest way to get in contact with us. Our email is entertainthispodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to our website. That's www.entertainthis.net. And all the way at the bottom, there's a little questionnaire that you can fill out. That sends it straight to our inbox as well, in case you just want to do it that way. It makes it a little bit easier. You can also find us on Twitter. We are entertain_this. On Instagram, we are entertain this podcast. We have a Facebook group. It is entertain this. No, it's podcast entertain this. Yep. On YouTube,
There
we're
you go.
entertain this. Just look for our logo. Our branding is, pretty solid across the board. And as always, entertain us so we can entertain you, and you can entertain this. We'll see you guys next Friday. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Special thanks to Ward Jenkins for joining us on this episode. Additional commentary was provided by Nicholas Kangas, Alex Steele, Michael Savoya, and Chloe Price. Our theme music is Rushmobile by Aaron Spencer, with additional interstitial music by DJW. Tune in every Friday for new episodes, and thanks for listening.